Hey everybody, it is August 4th, 2019, and that means it's a new month, which means I'm going to talk about the games that I beat in the month of July 2019. I beat quite a few, a lot of Super Nintendo, some NES, one GameCube, some Game Boy, and two Wii games. So we'll start off with the first one I beat in July, and that is Demon's Crest. This is a great game. I played a little bit of it a few months ago, or a while ago, I should say. Never got into it, so I decided to sit down with it and give it the time it deserves, and I'm glad I did. Um, it really, really hooks you once you get into it. The only complaint I have about it is it's kind of short, like you want kind of more, but that could be kind of a good thing too, I guess. You can look at it like it doesn't overstay its welcome. So you play as Firebrand, who's the main character on the cover there, and you have to collect. Uh, you have the fire gem already. You have to collect four earth, wind, water, and time and stones, and each one turns you into a different dragon, and each or a different gargoyle, and then they have different abilities. Like the first one you get is a earth gargoyle. He can't fly, but he can like do a shoulder dash to break obstacles to get you into different areas. He shoots out this like ground attack that's really powerful. Then you get a water one, which can swim in water and it's kind of weak on land, but it can go underwater in places you need to go. You get a flying one that can fly indefinitely. It has a wind attack. It's really powerful. And it can open certain areas for you, cut down certain vines to get through. And you have the Time Gargoyle, which is like a legendary gargoyle, which is a mixture of like the main gargoyle, and it really, really ups his attack power, and he looks like meaner. And then, so you go through all the levels. There's a there's a Mode 7 map, and they're labeled, labeled, you start off with two areas labeled 1 and 2. You go in order or out of order, and then some more will open up, and it's up to 6 areas. And there's a few hidden shops in the game that give you spells that are not really too useful. The only one I used was to restore life. And then there's also potions to get, or I'm sorry, I used the potions to restore life. There's also ones that restore you if you die with 4 hearts, or 4 energy containers. And the spells there's like one that shakes the ground like an earthquake, and there's a few other I can't quite recall. You don't really need them to be beaten. There's a mechanic where you headbutt stuff to break it, and there's a few games where you can jump up and head like whack-a-mole, but you hit these heads coming out of the wall, and then there's one hidden area where you have to get the last energy container. There are secrets where you go back into the levels multiple times once you get different gargoyle forms to get items that you weren't able to access previously, like a Metroid game. The music is very moody and dark, very orchestrated, like pipe organ kind of feel, and the graphics are great. There's a lot of slowdown to it, but that's okay. It didn't really bother me. It's just a fantastic game. And I played this one, and I wanted to play another Gargoyle's Quest. Good thing there's more. So the next game I finished in July was Gargoyle's Quest 2, and this is on the NES, a later NES game release. This is, after playing Demon's Crest, you can see the similarities and how Demon's Crest took it and improved upon it. They did take some things out of Demon's Crest that were in this game. For example, in this game you can't float indefinitely in the sky. In Demon's Crest you could flap as long in the sky as you wanted. So the way it worked is you jump, and then you'd hit jump again, and you'd stop in the air and you'd float. If you hit jump again, you drop, and you hit it again, you could float. In this one, you have a meter that you actually have a certain amount of time that you can stay in the air before you drop, and you can increase that over time with special like power-ups that lengthen that meter. There's also power-ups that you find to increase your hit points, and ones that increase your attack power. And there's a few armor pieces, I believe. I think they're called scales. There's like fangs, which are your claws, I think, or fangs or scales. One of the two is there's like fang, scale, and wing speed. wing, which is your wing length. So you can increase your health, your wing durability, like your wing length of time you can stay in the air, your attack power, and I think just one other thing I can't think of. But this one is sort of a Mode 7, obviously. It's an overworld, like Dragon Warrior style map, and you go into towns. There's these enemies random that are on the map. You go on top of them and you fight them. It goes into a side-scrolling section where you have to beat the enemies, and then you get some vials. They're not vials in this game. I forget what they are, but they'll allow you to get extra lives. And the way it works is you get so many of these, whatever they are, I forget what they call them, and you can get an extra life. And then there are unlimited continues, but it sets you back to the previous part. There's no saves, but there's certain areas where you talk to a gargoyle or a monster, and it gives you a password. So if you die, it takes you all the way back to the last password that you got. So that's the challenge, is kind of juggling your lives to distance between death, so you don't have to go too far back to where you got a last password. It's not very long either, but it looks great, sounds great, and is very unique. I could see before playing Demon's Crest, playing this game on the NES, there was nothing like it. Very cool. Next on the list was Super Adventure Island 2, and these are in order of how what I beat this month. This is a very fun game. The only Adventure Island games I played were one on the NES, a little bit I rented from Video Visions, and two on the NES. I played a lot because my friend had it. Super Adventure Island I rented, but never got too far, and this is the sequel to that. It's very different than other Adventure Islands. There's no fruit to extend your timer life bar, but it is a side scroller. So, but you have weapons. You play as Higgins, but instead of using a hammer, there's a hammer and there's a boomerang, but instead of using those, you also use a sword. It's very much like a Metroid exploration game, where you start out very weak and you can get upgrades to your health, and you get armor and weapons to improve your strength and attack power and defense. And there's certain items you get to allow you to go back to certain levels to go in areas where you couldn't access before. And you have to, takes place, you're on this little raft. There's like 6 main islands you have to go to, and there's like stones that you gotta get to open up certain areas of the island to get into. You also have magic spells. It's very cool. It's my favorite Super Adventure Island game, I think. But it's very unique. It plays like Zelda 2. There's a down thrust you get. Plays like a mixture of Zelda 2 and Adventure Island with Metroid. If that sounds very interesting, I think, yeah, pick it up. It might be on the Wii U Virtual Console. I'm not, or maybe it's on the Wii, but if it was, it might have been on the Wii Virtual Console, but that's gone. So I don't know if it's on Wii U Virtual Console. I don't think it is. But it's very fun, and the cover art's really cool too, if you can see that. So after that, I wanted to play the first Super Adventure Island for the NES, or the Super Nintendo, excuse me. So I actually beat this. This is a very short game. It looks great, sounds excellent. The music in this game is great, fantastic, done by Yuzo Koshiro. A very early Super Nintendo release. I remember renting this back then when it came out, and I remember it looking amazing because like the zooming they have in when Master Higgins falls, they do like a scaling effect. I don't know if it's Mode 7. It looks like Mode 7. There's also a part where he gets eaten by a whale, and you see the whale come out of the water and swallow him. It's very short. It is challenging, but it's very short, and it's very fair. You have limited continues, but it took me about 5 tries to beat the game. It's very easy once you find out where everything is. It's just trial and error, but it is very good, very, very good. Not outstanding, but very fun. It looks great, sounds great, plays excellent. So if you've never played an Adventure Island game, you play as Master Higgins. You move from left to right, and you have a timer in the form of a life bar that decreases over time, and you fill that by eating food. So you have to jump and collect food during the stage to keep that filled, or you'll die. One-hit deaths. There's obstacles in the way, like enemies that come at you, and if they hit you once, you're dead. You have a axe that you throw in an arc, or a boomerang that goes more of a line circle, like a circular direction straight ahead. And if you collect 2 of them, it powers it up even stronger. And the end boss, there's a boss at each of the end of the 3 levels, and I think there's 7 levels, or 6 or 7 levels of stages of 3 levels each. Yeah, if you get a chance to play this, play it. It's pretty fun. For some reason, I got thinking about Joe and Mac, wanting to play it again. So I never played Joe and Mac 2, or I played it but never beat it. So I picked this up and played it. It's a lot faster than the first Joe and Mac, because I love the first Joe and Mac on Super Nintendo. It's one of my earliest Super Nintendo memories that I used to rent and played with a friend, my best friend at the time. The sequel is more of the same, except there's a mechanic where you can have there's a main like town that you're from, and you have a house of each Joe and Mac, and you go to a store. You can buy flowers for a certain. There's 3 cave women, and you keep giving flowers to one of them, and you'll eventually marry them, and they can go in your hut, and you can get furniture to decorate it. I ended up marrying one, but I didn't decorate my house. What else about this can I say? You don't get the tire weapon that was in the first Joe and Mac. You can eat like food and spit out the bones as weapons. There is like dinosaurs you can ride that make you invincible for a while. It's an overhead map. You can go in any order you want. It's not a very long game. I don't remember if there's, I think there are limited continues or unlimited. There might be unlimited continues, I'm not sure, but the last boss is very challenging, but not a very long game. If you want more Joe and Mac, this is a good option for you. It's a little harder to find now. But the first one, Joe and Mac, is very, very common, so I recommend that one. I still like that one better. Next up is Magic Sword, and this is a port of the arcade game that came out before it. This is a game my friend had as well, and it's not 2-player, but I remember playing it a lot. I remember about this game is the music. I love the concept of Dungeons & Dragons. You like scale a tower, and there's 50 levels that are pretty brief. 50 floors of the tower, or 49 floors of the tower. The first level is like outside getting in a tower. So the way this works, you play as a barbarian, and you have a sword, and you have a meter at the bottom when it charges up like Secret of Mana, and once it's at its full power, you attack, it's stronger, and it'll shoot this little beam out of it, or fireball out. And that's when your attack's at its fullest. You have a health meter that once that drops, you lose a life, but once you increase your health, once that's full, it will go past it and fill up, and you'll have a number 2 next to it, which means you have 2 health bars, and you can go to 3 and 4 and so on. Limited lives and limited continues, so it can be challenging. You got to kind of take your shots and not, be careful. You get keys and unlock prison gates that unlock helpers for you. There's like an Amazonian with a crossbow, a ninja with stars, a lizard man that shoots like these spears or swords. He's my favorite. A knight that has these spears he throws. A big man like a Neanderthal with a big axe. And a thief, which I also like. I played for my first time through because I went through this twice. The thief will identify hidden like treasure chests that'll flash, and you know where they're at. Because there are hidden chests in this game that you want to really find to make it easier. And you swing in the air and they'll kind of disappear like super ghouls and ghosts. So I went through this twice, and it's brief, but it's very fun. There is a lot of slowdown in it, like a lot of Super Nintendo games. And if you collect, like I was saying, if you collect more than one of the same character helper, they'll level up and their attack will get stronger. Very fun game, very nostalgic game for me. It's on a lot of classic collections. It's on like PSP collection, Capcom collection, that PlayStation 2, Xbox, Capcom collection. It's pretty fun. I never played the arcade one, but the Super Nintendo one I do like. Next up, sticking with the sword and sorcery theme, but I wanted to play beat 'em up, so I played King of Dragons. And this one I went through twice as well. I went through once with the Dwarf and once with the Cleric. Very fun game. So if you don't know what King of Dragons is, think of like Final Fight, but more D&D inspired. So it's a scrolling beat 'em up, but you have weapons and you have classes to pick. You have a Cleric, which is very defensively strong, and it has a blunt object. It can take a lot of abuse. A Dwarf, which is very, he's smaller and he's a little slower, but his attack's really good. And a Barbarian or a fighter I should say, he's really like a Barbarian. He's very strong and average. Can take good damage too. A Wizard, which I haven't played as, it has a projectile magic spell, and a elf who has like a bow and arrow, which I didn't play as either. So you go through the stages. If there's like a map where you kind of in between levels you see your person move on it, and then you find these magical spells during the side-scrolling fighting sections, and if you bump them ahead of you, when you hit them with your sword to activate them, it'll clear out the screen. So you can bump them ahead and keep them in front of you and use them when you want to by hitting them. You also collect points that help you level up, and you also, when you get enough points and level up, an icon will pop out, and you pick it. It's an icon of the weapon you have. You pick it up, it'll level up your weapon and look a little different. The fighting is not super deep. You just swing. You can do a jump swing, and if you have a shield, you can block certain attacks, which is very crucial. Sometimes, very fun. There's a lot to it. Not a lot to it, but there kind of is. It kind of doesn't make sense. It's complex enough to not be confusing. It is very fun too. Next up, I kept up with the beat 'em up Knight Swords and Sorcery games, and this is Knights of the Round on Super Nintendo. Now this is more of a traditional Final Fight. Think Final Fight, but with swords, and this is more up your alley. This is more Final Fight than the last King of Dragons. So you play as Arthur, the overall average character, has good average strength, speed, and power, or strength and speed. Percival, which is the really buff, like Mike Hyagar type character. He has great strength. He's very slow though, but he has like a double dash, which lets you like double tap on the directional pad and you'll run forward, which makes up for that. And he also has the strongest attack, so he can take out enemies quicker. And Lancelot, which I didn't really care for, he's the fastest but weakest. So you go through the levels, just much like King of Dragons and Final Fight. You fight a boss, and you collect points from treasure, and you level up and get stronger. Very hard game. I found this very challenging. I could get to the last boss on normal, but I never beat him after like so many tries. So I had to bust it down to easy to actually beat the game. I had a lot of trouble with it. I don't know if I'll ever beat it on normal, but I saw all the game on normal and just went through it on easy to beat the last boss. So very fun though. And this is you can get the arcade release on. Just came out on the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle on the Switch, and it's also on some other compilations, I believe, on PlayStation 2 maybe, and Xbox. Very fun. And what dropped there? Whoops. Oops. We'll get to that later. Next up, we have two Game Boy games. So we'll start off with the one I beat first, and that is Final Fantasy Adventure on the Game Boy. Since I'm getting the Secret of Mana collection in August, and for Trials of Mana, which is the third Mana game we never got, I'm really looking forward to playing that in August. I never played the first Secret of Mana game, and that's this game, Final Fantasy Adventure. So I played through this, and it's fantastic. Very much top-down Zelda, but there's a lot more RPG to it. You have a strength meter, like your power meter for your attack at the bottom of the screen, like in Secret of Mana. The longer you wait, the more power for your attack. It starts off very, very slow. As you level up and beat monsters, you can pick what to up, like you'll gain stats. You can also decide what to put 2 extra additional points into. Wisdom, intelligence, I believe, strength, and defense. Strength is like your, or defense is like you can take less damage. Um, strength is your hit points. Wisdom or I think intelligence is your magical power, and wisdom is how fast your bar that I just talked about will increase on the bottom of the screen and allow you, so if it goes up faster, you don't have to wait as long to deal the maximum amount of attack for your weapon. So you have a lot of weapons in this game. You start out with just a sword, but you also get a spitting like mace, like a Morning Star weapon. You get an axe, a couple axes. You get some spears, and each one of those has a special charge move, or if you wait for it to be charged at the very bottom of the screen, like I talked about, it'll do a special like zoom across the screen or a spin attack, which is very good against the last boss, or bosses in general. So you slowly unlock more of the world, you go to a town, find out where to go into that cave, beat the boss, get stronger, get the next item you need to progress, and you eventually go to fight the guy who kidnaps this one girl who's the next successor to be the Tree of Mana. And you fight him in front of the Mana Tree, and the Mana Tree, once he's dead, the Mana Tree is the girl's mom, and she comes up and says, "I'm dying, stay here and be the Mana Tree and keep giving life, or be the Mana Tree and keep going." So she decides to stay there and become the Mana Tree, and you eventually it says that you visit her and stuff, and that moves into Secret of Mana for the SNES, and that moves into the next game that I will be waiting for. I've been waiting 20 years to play, over 20 years to play Secret of Mana 3 or Trials of Mana, coming out in. It's out now on the Switch, but the physical release is coming out in September or August, so I'm really looking forward to playing that. So I wanted to play this very good Game Boy game. Very, very fun. Up there was one of my favorite Game Boy games. Link's Awakening's up there too. This is up there with Link's Awakening. I really like Link's Awakening. I like this game too. Next up is Castlevania II Belmont's Revenge. Never beat a Castlevania game on the Game Boy. This one's really fun. You play as, not Christopher, I think Christopher is kidnapped and you're his grandfather and you have to save him. I forget your name. Anyway, you pick like from 4 castles at the beginning. And I forget what they're different themes. And once you beat them, you go into the final castle and you fight Christopher and unlock, and you like snap him out of his like mind control that Dracula has against him, and then you go on to fight Dracula. And the last Dracula fight is very rewarding and challenging because he spits out these fireballs, and you got to figure out exactly where to stand to avoid damage when he goes across the screen, and you have this brief window to hit him. The music's fantastic. It's a side-scrolling Castlevania game. You have sub-weapons, you have an axe and holy water. And yeah, it's just very fun. It plays well, sounds great, it's very fun. Next up for the GameCube, we have Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures. One of the few Zelda main games I haven't beat. This game surprised me. I love this game a lot. It's not like your traditional Zelda game. Basically, Link pulls out the 4 sword, he splits it into, so this shadowy Link figure tricks Link into pulling out the 4 sword, which splits him up into 4 Links, which you can control. I played single player, so with a GameCube controller, and how that works is you move the 4 Links around, and you can hit the C stick to move them into formations, like vertical, all in a line, vertically or horizontally, in a square, or in a diamond shape. And these have all their uses during puzzles and during combat. You can go into the square, so you're sort of protected on all sides. A line, if they're all coming at you in one way, you can slash and have a wide coverage. When you go into a house, it'll pop up this little Game Boy Advance window. It says Game Boy Advance, and you see what's inside that house. You can also play with a Game Boy Advance with a Game Boy Advance link cable to the GameCube port, and when you go in the house, you actually look at your Game Boy Advance screen and you see it on there. You can also play it with up to 3 other people, which I would love to play because this would be a great fun game to play with 3 other people. So the way it works is there's a map. You start in one area, you beat the 3 areas in it. You move to it'll go to the next area, like a Mario map, but you don't have really big control. It's very linear. The items, like there's the classic bow and arrow, boomerang items, but you don't keep them. They're in stages. You can pick them up and use them, but you can't keep more than one. If you have a bow and arrow and you see a bomb, you have to put down the bow and arrow and get the bomb to use it. It looks amazing. One of the best looking 2D Zelda games. The sprite works great. The music is fantastic. It reminded me a lot because I liked Triforce Heroes. It reminded me a lot of that because I did beat Triforce Heroes. In that same vein, of a puzzly kind of single player experience that would even be better with multiplayer if you had 3 people to play with. And you could actually link up 4 GameCubes, 4 TVs, 4 Game Boy Advances, and 4 link cables and each person play on their own TV. It would be crazy. But yeah, it's a good game. I really like it. Next up, Contra Anniversary came out, and I beat Contra Hardcore this summer, so I wanted to play another Contra, so I had Contra Force, and I decided to play through it. This game is notoriously, people hate it, so I wanted to give it a shot, and I can see why people don't like it. I found it enjoyable enough. It wasn't great, it wasn't bad, it was just okay, with some bugs. The bad thing about this game is it's very slow, and that can be forgiven, but it seems like it wasn't tested. And what I mean by that is sometimes when you're scrolling, the screen will forget to scroll, so you have to go back and go forward to have the screen scrolled. So that would have been something testing would have been picked up immediately. There's also lots of sprite flicker, and there's certain points where the levels don't look finished. You don't know where to go in the level. Like, there's this one point where there's these chains you have to climb, but the chains aren't pronounced in any way to direct you to them, so I had to spend a while to figure out where to go. The levels just seem very... There's some good ideas, like you're on top of a plane and you have to wait for the wings to come together so you can cross them, but they just seem not very well tested. The game doesn't seem finished. It looks like it needed another year or so to really test and improve upon, because there are some good aspects to this game. It's a side-scrolling shooter like Contra, but you have a choice of 4 characters at any time, and each have different power-ups. And it works on a Gradius type scaling where you pick up a suitcase to upgrade your power, and if you pick up more suitcases, it'll scroll over more, and you stop it at the one you want to keep. So if you get 3, it'll be, and you activate it, it'll be the 3rd item in the scale. Each of the characters has certain strengths, like there's a demolition guy which does really strong bombs. There's a guy with a sharpshooter that has a good range on his weapon. The guy with a pistol. You can also, I found this very weird, you can have, if you don't have a second player to play with, because it is 2-player co-op, you can program one other of the other three characters to come out and help you for about 10 seconds or so, and you can have, like, you go to the screen, you select, it'll be like front cover, back cover, and you see like it has a picture on the diagram where the computer player is out in front of you or behind you, and after that 5 or 10 seconds is up, they'll go back and you have to go into menu and select them again for them to come out. I didn't really use it a lot. I used it on a few times when there was somebody over in the distance I wanted to hit without being in danger. Contra Force, it's not as terrible as people say. It's just not very good. It's okay. Unlimited continues, so I was able to beat it. The bosses are disappointing, and it just seems unfinished. If it was like play tested more and improved upon for another year, I think it would have been pretty good. But as it stands now, it's very forgettable. Next up is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project for NES. And this was a treat to play because I actually played this with my cousin, who I used to play games with growing up. and we haven't done that in years. I think he had the first Ninja Turtles game on NES. Um, he actually came up. We actually went through this game a few weeks ago and had a blast doing it. We actually beat Krang on the last Super Shredder on our last last life. So it was very tense. We were like, go over here, we'll get the, go over here, watch out, figuring out patterns of what to do. It was just a blast. So this is the second in the NES side-scroller type beat 'em up Ninja Turtles games. There was Turtles 1, which was the infamous one that a lot of people don't like. I actually like that game. It's very challenging. There's Turtles 2, which is the arcade port, a straight beat 'em up, and this is the sequel to that, which is very much like Turtles 2, but with different levels and different moves. So the one thing about this game, they don't give you a lot of pizza. I think we went through the whole game and there was only a part 3 times where we got pizza. So you really have to conserve your health and use the down and attack button to do the up stab, which kills enemies in one hit. Foot soldiers in one hit. You get less points for it. So I think you get an extra guy after 50,000 points. But at a point, they stopped giving you extra guys, it felt like, because my cousin got to the 50,000 point threshold. We were expecting one up, and they didn't give him one. But it's very good. If you like the second Turtles game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game on NES, this is a great game to play too. Also, another treat is went through Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers again for the first time in years, probably since back when I was a kid. And I went through this with my sister, and I had a blast with it. Well, we didn't actually, we alternated off because she'd die a lot, and I'd have to finish the level, and then I'd just give her the controller and have her play a while. And then eventually I got to the end of it. It's not a very long game, but I had a blast playing with my sister because we used to play this growing up. Still a blast to play. I do remember it being longer than it was, but it's a great game. A classic on the NES for sure. I was a little out of order there, but this one should have been said. I should have said I beat before that, and that's the Lone Ranger on NES. And this game is fantastic. A lot of different play styles to it. A lot like Bayou Billy, but better, and no beat 'em up stages. So it has different kinds of play control. There's a top-down screen with shooting. There's a top-down map screen and towns. There's a side-scrolling screen. There's a zapper screen. There's the horseback riding, side-scrolling. It's all kinds of unique gameplay types to it. You can play the zapper stages with the controller or the zapper. It's just fantastic. So it starts out, you're on a map screen. You go into town. You find out what to do. There's enemies in the town like to come up and shoot you. You shoot them and get money. You use the money to upgrade your weapons and buy more and better bullets. You go find out where to go in town, and you go into those areas, and it can either be a side-scrolling area or a first-person shooter zapper area. And there's guys out on the map where if you run into them, it'll go into the top-down shooting area where you got to get past them and get more money. Money is very important. It's just fantastic. There's passwords, but the passwords take you back to it's broken up into 8 chapters, and it takes you. So if you die, it goes back to the beginning of those chapters. So there's a lot of dying and replaying it a lot to get back to where you are. But you get so good at those, you can fly through the first part of the stages. So it took me a while to beat, but fantastic game for NES. Highly recommend the Lone Ranger. You don't hear a lot of people talk about it, but if you can find it, pick it up and play it. Next up this was a treat to play. I was back home, and like I said, I beat Turtles 3 with my cousin and Chip and Dale's 2 with my sister. I went through with my niece and nephew, and we played New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which I never played before. We played this on my Wii Mini U back home in the basement on the CRT, and we had a blast playing it. There was a lot of yelling at each other, like, oh, don't, you're bumping into each other, like, oh, what are you doing? Like, you gotta take it slow, and you don't want to go slow, so you hit into each other and you fall. Very frustrating, but very fun. One of the best times I had playing a game co-op in a while with them. And actually, when we got to the end, my nephew Evan actually beat Bowser, and that was awesome. Like I didn't think we were gonna get it that time, but he came through and beat him, and just a blast to play. You gotta when you're playing with other people, you gotta put the way you play Mario out the window and kind of adapt to how they play. Don't go after everything because sometimes people don't want to go after the coins that you want to go after. So you got to stick with the group and kind of play into that and have the fun. The fun will come if you don't fight against it. A very fun game, and I'm very happy to have beat it. One of the few Super Mario games I haven't beaten or haven't played until just this month. Next game we played, I beat with my niece Ava, and my sister played as well, was WarioWare Smooth Moves. This game's fantastic as well. Lots of funny WarioWare games, mini games that you have a few seconds to figure out what to do. They'll tell you the type of game it is, like certain games use the Wii remote like this, like you steer. Certain ones you have to balance it. Certain ones you have to use like an elephant trunk on your nose and pick up stuff. Certain ones you have to use like a remote control, and it tells you that at the beginning. Then you have to figure out how to beat the game. And if you get through all the mini games, then you get to the next scenario. And it's just a lot of fun, very fun game. WarioWare Smooth Moves. Next up is a game I don't have much experience with, but I've decided to play it, and that's Clash at Demon Head. Beat this. Actually, I was going to make a map. I did not because the copy I had when I got it, the person who had the game before me actually drew a map already, which was nice. So I actually used his map to help me out. So if you don't know Clash of Demon Head, it's a very open game, side-scrolling game, platformer. You have a map, and each route is numbered on the map, so you can see where to go. Like 1's over here, down 2's up here, 3's over here. You go in that direction, and there's certain things in that direction you have to remember. That's why you write a map. So you have to go back to those places. So that's why a map helps out a lot. I can't really explain the story too much, but it was very fun. It was very open and very there's cutscenes where you see the characters' faces in the portraits. It's very fun and funny. You can get suits that you buy. You call a shop with a shop call. You get certain suits, like a power suit takes you less damage. There's one that increases your attack power. There's one that makes you swim underwater. You get health restoring potions. You have ones that restore your force, which is you need a hermit that gives you 4 different spells. One shrinks you down. One will teleport you. One makes your attack stronger, I believe. And then there's another one which I can't remember. If you know where to go, it's not a very long game. It took me a few days to beat. But yeah, Clash of Demon Head by Vic Tokai, 1989. So the music's pretty cool too. Very you can get in your head. And actually, I beat this game before I beat. No, wait, I'm sorry. No, this is right. That's Mr. Nuts. So Mr. Nuts, I actually had a real fun time with this game. I got to the end boss by leaving my Super Nintendo. And there goes Mr. Nuts. Sorry about that. But I got to the end boss the first time. I left back home when I was visiting family. I left my NES on because I could only play it a few hours at a time, so I had to leave my Super Nintendo on overnight. And I got to the last boss, but my Super Nintendo glitched out, so I had to restart it when I got back. And I got through much quicker this time. It took me about 3 hours or 4 hours to beat. The last boss is challenging. So this is a very typical side-scrolling platformer. You jump on enemies' heads. You have a tail that you can crouch and you attack. You'll swing your tail to attack. You collect nuts and you throw it, and you want to keep those in stock because that's how you ranged weapon. But the graphics are outstanding in this game, and it sounds very good too. But the gameplay is nothing special. It's just a side-scrolling platformer, but not too long. But the levels are challenging until you figure out where everything's at, where the enemies are coming, and where, because the levels are pretty big. There's lots of secrets, which I haven't found all the secrets, but you can go different directions. They're not just left to right. You can go all around the level. So it's a very fun game, Mr. Nuts. Getting down to the last 3 here. This is Bucky O'Hare on the NES. This is a very fantastic game. This is up there now with one of my favorite games on the NES. It's challenging but fair, and what I mean by that is the levels are hard. You don't have one-hit deaths, but you have a life bar, which is very generous, and there's generous checkpoints. Like you'll get one area that's very hard, and then there's a checkpoint. And then you get to the next area, there's a checkpoint. So if you die, run out of lives on any of the... If you die, you'll start at the checkpoint again. If you run out of lives on any of those areas, you can continue unlimitedly. So there's unlimited continues, which take you back to the checkpoint. So I love those games because I will always usually beat those games. If they give me unlimited lives and they're very generous with their checkpoints, I will beat them. Like Ninja Gaidens, I could always beat those because of unlimited continues. If you keep throwing your head against it, you'll learn the patterns and you'll eventually beat it. Same with Bucky O'Hare. So you play as Bucky, who your other 4 companions or 3 companions are kidnapped, and you go to 4 planets to rescue them. There's Blinky, I think, a little robot that can destroy ice blocks with his weapon. There's a girl. There's another character that shoots like a laser, and she has this fireball that she can control to hit enemies. And there's this human boy, I forget his name, Willie maybe, or Billy, and he has the most powerful gun. And you can switch between them at any time by hitting select. Oh, there's also a duck, which has like a spread shot, which is very useful. You hit them, go through them anytime by hitting select. They each have their own health bars. You can collect power-ups to make their health gauge bigger. And you can collect weapon items to make their special attack longer. So each character has a special attack. So you hit B button, it'll charge, and when it's fully charged, you can unleash it to unleash your special attack. So Bucky has a super jump. Blinky, who I said has this ability to like fly for a little bit. The girl has like this ability to do like a hover ball I was talking about, the control to hit enemies, and the human boy, Willie or Billy, has a charged laser shot, which is very good. And the duck has Deadeye, he can climb walls, which is very useful in the next to last level. And once you get all 4 planets, then they're kidnapped again. It was a trap to get Bucky, and they get kidnapped. You have to save them, but this time they're possessed, and you have to fight them as a boss, and you get them back permanently this time. You go into this reactor. You have to blow it up, and then you have to escape on your ship. And there's like a side-scrolling shooter level now, and then you got to beat this giant mothership that you circle around, and you fight the last boss. Very challenging, very rewarding. I was able to beat this in a day of just playing it. So it's not impossible, and it's very addicting. You will want to beat it. One of the best games on the NES that a lot of people don't talk about. So in the last 2 games I've been playing, I busted out the old Super Scope 6 here. Look at this thing. And it took me a while to get this to work. I had to clean the contacts on it. I think there was like a little corrosion on the contacts, which was strange because the batteries weren't in it, so I don't know how that works. But I beat some Super Scope 6 games. I beat Yoshi's Safari. This is basically your Mario, and you go through the Jewel Kingdom to beat bosses and collect jewels from, I think, 13 stages, 12 or 13 stages, from the Jewel Land. And you eventually rescue the prince and save Jewel Land. So Princess Peach asks you to go there to do this. You play on the back of the Yoshi. So Mario in the game, you see him with the Super Scope on Yoshi's back, and he's on the. It's like a rail shooter. You ride along Yoshi, and enemies come up, and you shoot them like Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Hammer Brothers, and then you have use the jump button here to jump on little Mario Kart arrow pads, and you fight off against the boss at the end. There's like a mid boss and then a boss, and they're usually the Koopalings and like mech suits, mech machines and stuff, and you blow them away, you go to the next area. You can take the levels in different order. So it's very short. I was able to beat it in a few hours, but it's very fun. Um, and it was cool to use the Super Scope again. The next game I played with the Super Scope, but then I actually used the NES mouse on it to finish it. And that's Tin Star on the Super Nintendo. And this plays like a... You can use the Super Scope, like I said, and you see the reticle on the screen and shoot. Or you can use the mouse and move the reticle like with the mouse, or you can use a controller. I started off using the Super Scope, and then I switched to the mouse so I could because it got kind of hectic. Like I wanted even quicker, like movement than like doing this. Because when you're Super Scope, you're limited your vision to just what's out of this little scope. So yeah, I had to sit far back from the TV so I could see everything. Because if I'm sitting close, I'm limited to this little scope area to see. So I was having a hard time with that. So I used the mouse to finish it. But Tin Star is fantastic. It looks great. It plays like a shooter like Operation Wolf or something, but certain areas you see like enemies will pop out and you shoot them in like a bar, and there's certain areas where you're kind of scrolling on a train or somewhere else, and you see Tin Star on the screen, and he's like, as you shoot, move your reticle, he'll aim. So it's supposed to be like he's on side scrolling section moving, and when you shoot, he shoots. And then there's quick draw sections where you have to, they ask you to draw, you have to pull and shoot like a little 6-shooter, like gun chamber, and then move back to them and shoot them before they shoot you. And it takes place over the course of a week. So it starts off on Sunday, you see Sunday, and then you have to target practice by shooting bottles off of a fence. And if you shoot them long enough, they'll explode, you'll get more points. And it costs so much money to save after each set of stages. It increases the cost, and if you spend too much money, you can't get the best ending. I got the worst ending. If you have a lot of money, you get the best ending. But I just got the bad ending. Very fun. I actually want to play some more Super Scope games. I have Metal Falcon and Battle Clash, which I can't find Battle Clash, but I do want to play through those. It's just cool to play like these games that are not easy to play anymore, and I didn't play a lot of Super Scope as a kid. I didn't have one, so that's cool to play. So yeah, I think that's everything I played, and it's been about 45-minute video. So yeah, you can see I beat a lot. I am playing through some games now, and good start for the next month. So I hope everybody has a great August and a fantastic rest of your summer. And I will see you again next month at around the same time. Take care.